Sometimes life throws you these tiny, quiet miracles that hit you so hard, you can't shake them off. I remember that morning like it was yesterday, even though it was sweltering hot. One of those brutal early summer days in Arizona where the sun just doesn't quit. I was at the Walmart in Mesa, just grabbing some groceries, thinking about the boring things we all think about: milk, bread, maybe a new lawn chair, and then I saw him. Well, I didn't actually see him at first. I heard him. A barking that didn't quite sound normal. Sharp, insistent, almost panicked, but also desperate in this weird, human-like way. And that's when I noticed the little pointer scrambling around the parking lot, ears flopping, tail straight out, eyes locked on something near the back of a silver SUV. And let me tell you, if you've never had a dog just stare at you with the weight of the world in its eyes, you're missing out on a feeling that's both unsettling and incredible all at once. Now, the thing is, this pointer, his name was Finn, though I only learned that later from the guy sitting on the curb, an old man with a backpack that had seen better decades. He wasn't wearing any leash, no collar, nothing. He was just Finn, all sinew and white patches, darting and barking and dragging a scrap of courage with him that I've never seen in a dog before. And he wasn't barking at a stray cat or some toddler running too close to the parking lines. He was barking at a car. A locked, sweltering car. And then I saw her. A little girl, maybe 3, 4 years old, sitting in the back seat, her face pressed against the glass, hands tapping and sliding around the window like she was looking for a way out. She wasn't crying yet, but she looked terrified in that way only small kids trapped in something they don't understand can be. And oh man, the sun was hitting that car like a furnace. You could see the heat shimmer off the roof. You could feel it on your skin, even standing a few feet away. Finn, that dog, went absolutely ballistic. He was jumping, yapping, pawing at the door, whining, spinning in circles, anything to get someone to notice. I swear, he even seemed to glance at the old man beside him like, "Dude, seriously, do something." And the guy, his name was Hank, if I remember correctly. He was shaking, fumbling with his phone, probably calling 911, probably wondering if he had the right numbers, probably thinking he was about to get arrested for something he didn't even do yet. You could see the fear in his eyes too. Not fear of the cops, fear for the kid. Because he didn't own that car, he didn't know the parents, but he and Finn, well, they had somehow decided in that moment that they were going to protect her. And that's what struck me hardest. There's something about a dog and a homeless guy teaming up that just stops you cold. Society usually wants to write those folks off, right? Invisible, ignored, a punchline in the news. But here they were, every instinct they had screaming at them. You save this child, or nothing else matters. Finn, jumping and barking like his paws were on fire, and Hank, yelling to people to help, waving his arms, almost doing a little dance to get attention. It was chaos, but it was beautiful chaos. I remember thinking, wow, this is going to be one of those stories you tell your kids someday. One of those "I saw a hero today" moments that actually leaves you speechless. And then I realized the problem. No one was noticing. People were just walking past, carts clanging, earbuds in, staring at their phones, oblivious. Finn's barks were getting higher pitched, more frantic, and Hank was getting desperate. He ran up to the driver's side door, tried to open it, and of course, it was locked. Panic in his eyes. Finn leapt against the rear window again, pawing at the metal, and I swear for a second it felt like the dog might just try to chew the door open. And I laughed nervously, even as my heart was hammering. There's something absurd in the way life sometimes throws you into a scene that's both terrifying and, honestly, kind of funny if you step back for a second. Hank looked at me then, finally catching my eye, and said, "I don't know what to do, man. She's just in there." And that's when Finn did something I'll never forget. He stopped barking for a heartbeat. He sat back on his haunches, just stared at the little girl, and tilted his head, like he was calculating the next move. And in that pause, the sun reflecting off his coat, the little girl's hand pressed against the glass. Everything went quiet for a second. I could hear the heat humming off the car, the faint cries of a baby somewhere in the parking lot. And then Finn lunged again, pawing, barking, spinning in circles, and this time, he went around to the passenger side and started doing the same thing. It's funny now, when I think about it, because I realized in that moment that dogs, really smart dogs, dogs that have spent time surviving in the world, have this uncanny ability to know exactly how far they can push. Finn wasn't destroying the car, wasn't panicking out of control. He was trying, in every possible way, to get help, to signal danger, to make people notice without actually putting the child at risk. It's like he had this sixth sense about what could go wrong, and yet he refused to step back. He refused to give up. And that, honestly, is terrifying when you realize, because if the dog had given up, no one else might have noticed in time. I remember shouting to the nearest couple pushing a cart, "Hey, there's a kid in there. Someone call 911. And they stopped, finally. Finn barked louder, spinning like a tiny tornado, paws scraping the asphalt, tail a whip of urgency. Hank finally dialed, hands trembling. And then, just as if it were scripted in some movie, a Walmart employee came running across the lot, keys in hand, looking confused and maybe a little annoyed at first, but the second he saw Finn and the little girl, everything changed. The urgency hit him like a brick. He sprinted to the SUV, unlocked the doors, and opened them just enough to slide the door open, and the little girl scrambled out, crying now, tears streaking her face, scared but alive. And Finn? He just stopped, sat down, panting, tongue out, like he had done his job, and now it was over. Hank looked at Finn and laughed nervously, relief flooding him, voice breaking. "Good job, buddy. Good job." And the little girl's mother. Oh man, this part hit me. I don't even know her name, but she ran out, screaming, hugging the child, tears everywhere, yelling at herself, thanking God, thanking Hank, thanking Finn. And Finn, well, he just wagged his tail, sniffed Hank's leg, and trotted around like nothing had happened. Like, yeah, saving a kid from a hot car, no big deal. That dog, man, he was a hero, but he didn't need the applause. And I realized right there, standing in the middle of a Walmart parking lot, that this is what courage looks like. Not capes, not medals, not speeches. Courage looks like a small dog refusing to give up, a man believing in his friend enough to act, and people noticing, finally, just in time. And in that moment, I swore I'd never look at a stray dog or a homeless man the same way again. I could go on about the chaos, the heat, the sirens that finally came, the officers thanking Hank, taking notes, probably rolling their eyes at Finn's excitement. But the truth is, what sticks with me is simpler. It's that flicker of loyalty, that instant bond between man and dog, stranger and child, complete strangers even, all connected by a sudden, urgent need to do the right thing. And when I think about it, I can't help but wonder, what would I have done if I were Hank? If I were Finn, could I have pushed past fear and panic and just acted? So that's the story, or at least the beginning of it. A dog named Finn, a man named Hank, a little girl trapped in a car that could have easily turned deadly. And it all started with a bark, a tail wag, and a refusal to ignore the problem. I tell you, sometimes heroes come in the most unexpected forms, with fur and paws and eyes that just see right through the chaos and straight to what matters. And here's the thing, it doesn't end there. Because Finn wasn't done yet. He had more to show us, more courage to prove, more obstacles we couldn't even imagine at first. And I promise you, the next part of this story, it gets even more unbelievable, more cinematic, more heart-pounding than anything I've ever witnessed at a Walmart parking lot. So, buckle up, because Finn is just getting started. So, like I said, Finn wasn't done yet, not by a long shot. The moment the little girl was safe in her mother's arms, the chaos didn't just disappear. No, it shifted into something almost cinematic. You see, Hank, the homeless man, he was breathing heavy, sweat dripping down his face from the Arizona heat. And Finn, well, Finn had that spark in his eyes, that restless, "I'm not finished" look, and I swear you could feel it in the air. The officers were finally rolling up, sirens whining softly in the background, trying to get the parking lot under control. But Finn, he had spotted something else. Something that no one else seemed to notice. Across the lot, about 30 feet away, there was this small crowd gathering, staring at a dumpster area near the edge of the store. And Finn, nose twitching, ears perked, started pulling Hank toward it. Hank tried to resist, muttering under his breath, "What now, boy?" But Finn's grip on the leash, or well, Hank's makeshift hold on Finn, since Finn really owned that leash, was insistent, almost commanding. And as we got closer, you could see why. A little puppy, maybe 8 weeks old, shivering, caught between the dumpsters and a busy cart path, whimpering like it knew the world was too big for it. Finn barked softly, nudged Hank's leg, and stared at me like, see? See what I mean? Someone's still in trouble. Now here's the thing. I had already been amazed by Finn once, saving a human child in a hot car, risking everything in a parking lot full of people who didn't care. And now he's pointing us toward a tiny, filthy, defenseless puppy, completely overlooked, and Hank hesitated. I think part of him was afraid, part of him was just exhausted, and part of him was thinking, why me? Why now? But Finn refused to let it go. He barked again, but this time there was urgency in it. The kind of bark that makes you move even when your brain is saying, maybe we should just leave it. Hank knelt down slowly, and I swear the puppy flinched at first, like every human interaction so far had been scary. Finn stayed right there, pacing, low growl in his throat to keep other people at bay. It was like he was saying, don't get too close too fast, I've got this. Hank reached a hand out, trembling, and the puppy finally sniffed, then climbed cautiously into Hank's arms. Finn circled around, tail high, proud, like he'd just orchestrated a rescue mission in some action movie and now wanted the credits to roll. And that's when things got complicated. Because as Hank and Finn were walking the puppy back toward the curb, I noticed something moving near the edge of the parking lot. A man, clearly drunk, staggering between cars, yelling at no one in particular, swaying dangerously close to the curb where traffic was slowly rolling past. Finn froze instantly, hackles up, tail stiff, ears pointed forward. He barked sharply, low and urgent, the kind of bark that makes your stomach knot. Hank froze too, and so did I. This wasn't a kid or a puppy this time. This was someone potentially violent, and Finn was right on point, reading the situation like a pro. The man lurched forward and almost stepped into traffic, and Finn, without hesitation, charged. Not recklessly, not like a mad dog, but calculated, controlled, with precision. He put himself between the man and the curb, barking nonstop, teeth showing just enough to warn, and the drunk guy stopped, looked down at Finn, and laughed. What the hell, dog? You protecting me now? He slurred. But Finn didn't back down. He barked louder, took one step closer, and that's when the man's expression changed. He looked fear in the eyes for the first time, and stumbled backward, tripping slightly on the asphalt. Finn sat down, but didn't leave the man's side, watching, tail flicking, ready to move again if needed. Hank and I looked at each other, and I swear we both thought the same thing. This dog is not just brave. He's brilliant. Strategic. Like he understood every nuance of the situation. Like he knew exactly what needed to happen to keep everyone safe. And meanwhile, the little girl's mother had wandered over, still holding her child, and she started apologizing to Hank, thanking him again, and trying to hand him a bottle of water. Hank waved her off, shaking his head, laughing nervously, sweat dripping into his eyes, and Finn just ignored everything except the drunk man, still a threat in his mind. Now, you have to understand, the heat in the parking lot was oppressive, the sun making the asphalt shimmer like some sort of desert mirage. My shirt was sticking to my back, my arms were damp with sweat, and I couldn't imagine what it was like for a dog that had been running, barking, circling, and basically carrying the emotional weight of everyone's safety. But Finn, he didn't stop. Not once. Every muscle in his body was poised, alert, ready. Every so often, he'd glance at Hank, like, we got this, right? And Hank would nod, trembling a little, and Finn would return his attention to the man. And then it happened. The drunk guy tried to step toward the little girl's mother, clearly thinking he was harmless, maybe joking, maybe lost in his own world. But Finn's bark turned into a full-on growl, deep and menacing. He lunged forward just enough to make the man take a step back. The man stumbled, almost falling again, and I swear the entire parking lot froze for a second. People were staring, unsure if this was going to escalate or calm down. And then, almost cinematic, the drunk guy tripped over the curb, tumbled onto the asphalt, and Finn sat down beside him, tail flicking, watching, ensuring he couldn't get up too fast. Hank exhaled slowly, wiping his forehead, muttering, "Damn it, Finn, you're crazy, but thank God." And in that moment, I realized something. Finn wasn't just heroic. He wasn't just brave. He was intentional. Every move he made, every bark, every glance, was calculated. He had assessed the dangers, prioritized the lives around him, and acted without hesitation. And the crazy thing? You could see Hank learning from him, trusting him, moving in tandem like a tag team you didn't know existed in a Walmart parking lot until today. And just when I thought it couldn't get more intense, another threat appeared. A loose dog, a big German shepherd-looking thing, had wandered over from a nearby alley, growling at the crowd, teeth bared, hackles up. Now, Finn, exhausted but unshaken, stood his ground. He barked and circled, never taking his eyes off the German shepherd. Hank moved in front, trying to protect Finn and the little girl's mother, but Finn went full-on protector mode. He put himself between the German shepherd and everyone else, chest puffed, tail stiff, hackles raised, barking nonstop. And the German shepherd? It hesitated, unsure what this little white and brown pointer was doing, and after a tense moment that felt like it lasted forever, it retreated back toward the alley. Finn stood tall, chest heaving, tongue lolling, but unwavering. By this point, the officers had arrived, sirens blaring softly now, and they were helping Hank get the little girl's mother and the rescued puppy to a safer spot. Finn, still alert, finally sat down, panting hard, looking like he'd just run a marathon and also fought a war. I remember crouching down next to Hank and whispering, "Man, that dog, he's incredible." Hank nodded, a grin breaking across his sun-beaten face, and patted Finn on the head. "Yeah," he said, voice low, almost reverent, "he's my hero. And today, he saved more than one life." And he had. The little girl, the tiny puppy, even the drunk man, if you could count preventing a potential accident as a life saved. But more than that, he'd saved something invisible, something unspoken. The idea that courage, loyalty, and action could come from the most unexpected places. A homeless man and his dog, overlooked by society, suddenly the center of life and death heroism in the middle of a Walmart parking lot. We all laughed nervously after that. There was this moment where the tension broke, and people started clapping, cheering, and Finn, exhausted but pleased with himself, wagged his tail, trotted over to Hank, and flopped down in the shade. Hank laughed, scratched Finn behind the ears, and muttered, "Damn it, buddy, you're something else." And Finn? Well, he just blinked slowly, tongue hanging out, like he'd been expecting praise but didn't really need it. He'd done what he needed to do. That was enough. But here's the thing. Even after all that, saving the child, the puppy, managing a drunk man, intimidating a German shepherd, Finn still had this spark. That quiet, alert, unrelenting spark that said, "I'm ready for the next thing." And you realize, watching a dog like that, that bravery isn't just about fighting or saving lives in obvious ways. It's about presence, awareness, courage under pressure, instinct, and above all, loyalty. The kind that makes you act even when the odds are stacked against you, even when no one else notices, even when the world seems indifferent. And that, my friends, is the part that hits you in the gut when you're standing there watching all of this unfold. Finn wasn't just a dog. He was a teacher, a guide, a force of nature disguised in white and brown fur, ears flopping, tail wagging, barking his heart out. And Hank, he was more than just a man. He was a partner in bravery, someone who, despite his own struggles, chose to act, chose to trust, chose to believe in a friend when it counted most. By the time everything had calmed down, the mother with her child, the officers taking statements, the crowd dispersing, Finn had earned a legend in that parking lot. Kids were pointing, adults were shaking their heads in disbelief, and I swear someone even started filming on their phone. But Finn was already looking up the lot again, sniffing the air, checking for the next problem, ready to step in wherever needed. And in that moment, I realized something fundamental. Sometimes heroes don't wear capes. Sometimes they're not paid. Sometimes they don't even get a name in the papers. Sometimes heroes are dogs, scrappy, fierce, loyal to the bone, and humans who refuse to ignore what needs to be done. And I promise you, the story wasn't over yet. Finn's actions had changed the lives of everyone in that parking lot that day. But more importantly, it had changed something inside all of us who watched. It planted this seed that courage and loyalty could show up anywhere, even in the most ordinary, mundane places. A Walmart parking lot in Arizona on a summer morning became a stage for heroism, for trust, for instinct and love and quick thinking that saved lives. And that, my friends, is the kind of story that sticks with you, that makes you reconsider the way you see the world, that makes you think, maybe courage is everywhere if you just look closely enough. And it was Finn who reminded us. By the time the sirens faded into the distance and the heat of the day finally started to settle just a little, there was this quiet that hung over the Walmart parking lot, like the storm of chaos had passed and left only the still, warm hum of normal life trying to creep back in. Finn sat under a small patch of shade near Hank, tongue lolling, chest heaving, but eyes alert. You could see the pride in him, but also that calm, almost reflective gaze of a dog who had done what needed to be done and now was finally allowed to rest. Hank knelt beside him, scratching behind his ears, muttering, "Good job, buddy, real good job." And for a second, I swear, it wasn't just gratitude, it was awe. Like he was witnessing a little miracle on four legs right in front of him. And it hit him just how rare and extraordinary his companion truly was. The mother of the little girl, still cradling her child, came back over to Hank, offering a shaky but genuine thank you, holding back tears, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Hank waved her off with a grin, eyes watering, and said, "It wasn't me, ma'am. It was him. Finn did all the work." And she knelt down, carefully, so the little girl could see the dog who had saved her. The child hesitated at first, unsure of this big-eyed, panting creature, and then, slowly, reached out a tiny hand. Finn sniffed it, gave a gentle nudge with his nose, and the girl giggled, a soft, airy laugh that seemed to shake off the last remnants of fear. And you could see it, the connection forming right there in the summer heat, a bond created in the middle of chaos, forged in a moment of pure trust. Hank gathered the puppy too, tucking it carefully into his jacket as if he'd known it all along that he and Finn would need to rescue one more life that day. People were starting to leave, murmuring to each other, pulling out their phones, some capturing little snippets of Finn's heroics. You could tell a few were going to tell the story later, exaggerate a little, and that was fine. The truth was already epic enough. Finn had not just saved a child. He'd saved a tiny puppy, kept a potentially dangerous man from wandering into traffic, and diffused a tense situation with a loose German shepherd. And through it all, he had done it without hesitation, without fear, without asking for anything in return. I remember standing there, hands in my pockets, feeling the heat seep back into my bones and thinking about what a strange and wonderful thing it was to witness heroism like this in the most ordinary place imaginable. A Walmart parking lot on a summer morning. No cameras, no stage lights, just life happening and a dog showing us all what courage really looks like. And Hank, well, Hank had been a part of it too. His trust in Finn, his willingness to act, his presence in the chaos. He had been just as brave, in a quieter, human way, but no less important. Watching the two of them together, you realize that heroism isn't about medals or recognition. It's about seeing a need and acting, even if you feel small, invisible, or overlooked. Eventually, the officers came back over, thanking Hank again, patting Finn on the head, and making sure the little girl and her mother were truly okay. I caught snippets of conversation, names being taken, stories being recorded, but most of all, I caught Finn's eyes, bright and intelligent, scanning the lot as if to make sure everything was safe. And that's when it hit me. This dog, who had been homeless with Hank, had become a symbol, a reminder, a small beacon of light in a world that often seems too busy or too distracted to notice. It was impossible not to feel something profound in that moment. Hank and Finn walked slowly back toward the curb, the little puppy snuggled under Hank's arm, and I followed at a respectful distance, just taking it all in. He told me quietly, "People think just because we don't have much, we can't do anything. But we can. Finn, he reminds me every day that you can make a difference if you're willing to try." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak, because there was nothing I could say that would do justice to what I'd just seen. The world often overlooks people like Hank, dogs like Finn, but there they were, standing in the Arizona sun, heroes in plain sight, teaching lessons we all tend to forget: loyalty, courage, awareness, and above all, love without condition. As the mother and child left, holding hands and glancing back at Finn, you could see the relief etched on their faces, the gratitude that didn't even need words. Finn wagged his tail, watching them go, then trotted back to Hank, brushing against his leg and waiting for the next adventure, or the next person who might need saving. And for Hank, I could tell, it was more than just a morning of heroics. It was a reaffirmation of why he kept going every day, why he stayed with Finn, why he believed in small acts of courage. He didn't need a trophy. He didn't need headlines. All he needed was Finn and the knowledge that together, they could face anything. We all walked out of that parking lot a little changed. People who had ignored the barking earlier were now whispering, pointing, shaking their heads in disbelief. Someone joked about Finn getting a superhero cape, and everyone laughed, because really, that's exactly what he deserved. But the laughter was soft, like the kind that comes after you've been reminded of something bigger than yourself. I realized then that heroes often come in unexpected packages, and sometimes they don't care about recognition. They care about doing the right thing, even if it goes unnoticed by the rest of the world. Finn didn't bark for praise. He barked to save a life. He acted because he had to, because the need was there, because his heart and instinct told him that someone was counting on him. And you know, thinking back, that's what makes this story stick in my mind more than anything. The idea that bravery doesn't have a size, doesn't have a uniform, and certainly doesn't need permission. It comes in the form of a little dog with a white and brown coat, a man who the world overlooks, and moments when you least expect them. Courage is spontaneous, selfless, and stubborn, and when you see it in action, it leaves a mark. Finn left a mark on everyone in that parking lot that day, and I carry it with me still. So, what would you do if you were Hank? Or if you were Finn? Could you act without hesitation when someone's life is in your hands, even if the world isn't watching? And more than that, how often do we overlook the heroes in our midst? People and animals who are doing extraordinary things quietly, every day? I don't know the answers, but I do know this. We could all stand to pay a little more attention, to trust our instincts, to act when it matters, and to honor those who do the same. And as for Finn and Hank, well, I like to think their story doesn't end there. Every morning, every walk, every small rescue, it all adds up to a life lived with purpose, courage, and loyalty. Finn, of course, will probably wag his tail, chase a few squirrels, bark at passing cars, and keep his human on his toes. But we who witnessed that morning will always remember him as more than just a dog. He was a guardian, a hero, a lesson in what it means to act without hesitation when life demands it. So I'll leave you with this. If you see a dog, a person, or anyone stepping up to do the right thing, notice them, celebrate them, learn from them, and remember that courage, loyalty, and heroism don't always come in obvious packages. They come in fur, in sweat, in small, quiet acts that save lives when no one is looking. And maybe, just maybe, they'll inspire you to act, too. Because if a dog named Finn and a man named Hank can change the course of a morning in a Walmart parking lot, imagine what the rest of us can do when we decide to show up. And now, I want to hear from you. What would you have done in that situation? Could you have acted as bravely as Hank and Finn? Or would you have looked away? Share your thoughts, your stories, your experiences, and let's celebrate the courage that lives in all of us, sometimes in unexpected, four-legged forms.